Hello my dear students. So today class I'm going to discuss to you the interpretation of tabular data. So this is part of chapter 4. So you are going to interpret the meaning of the data. So when we say interpretation class, it means giving meaning to the gathered data. So the data is useless if there is no meaning in it. So it is important that you must have to interpret or give the meaning of the gathered data. It is discussed by presenting the table or graph and its title, the results and meaning of it, comparing it to the results of other studies, and giving of practical implications of the results. So when you interpret class, you are going to first present the table number and the graph of the graph and its title. No? It may be a table or a graph. The results and the meaning of it. So you have to give the meaning of the result of the study. Then you are going to compare it with the results of the studies of other researchers or scientists. Then you are going to give practical implications of the results, or you are going to give practical applications of the results of this experiment or study. It is done after the data are presented in tabular or graphical form. So usually, you will interpret data after presenting it in tabular or graphical form. Then it is written before the table or graphs. So interpretations class are written o sinusunat yan pagkatapos ng mga or bago ang mga table or graph. So mauuna ang interpretation, din nasa baba ng interpretation ang table or graphs. Okay, next is we have here the 4 steps in interpreting data. The first one is step 1, table reading. It starts with telling the table number, the title, and the results, which indicate the highest and the lowest results, or the first 2 highest results only. So when you do the table reading, you have to start by telling the table number. Okay? So magsisimula ka sa table number, then the title and the results, which indicates the highest and the lowest result. So when you discuss the result, you have to discuss only the highest and the lowest. Okay? As well as you can also do by giving it the first 2 highest results only. Do not discuss everything in the table reading. Just discuss the first 2 highest or the highest and the lowest result in the data. Refrain from repeating again what is in the table. So, ibig sabihin, iwasan ang i-discuss lahat ng nasa table in toto. Okay? Because the table will talk itself. Then, the discussion starts with the use of prepositions. So, kapag magdi-discuss kayo ng table reading, magsimula kayo sa mga prepositions like the table above shows, it is gleaned from the table 1. Table 1 presents the, table 1 shows the. Okay, so yan yung mga how to discuss or start the discussion of table reading. So we will start with the prepositions. The next is, okay, so we have here an example of number 1. Table 1 shows the mean height of corn plant using organic fertilizers after 1 month. Results showed that horse manure gave the highest mean height of 23.5 inches, seconded by cow manure at 22.5 inches. So if you look at the table, you will discuss in table reading, you have to discuss the table number, the title of the table, and the meaning of what is in the table. So it is discussed here. The highest one is the horse manure, which is 23.5 inches. And the second is cow manure, which is 22.5 inches. So kapag mag-discuss kayo ng table reading, huwag i-discuss lahat. Okay, kung ano lang yung first and second or yung first and last. Okay, so yan ang table reading, example ng table reading. Okay, for step number 2, you are going to interpret. Interpreting. What does interpreting mean? It is the meaning of the discussion in the table reading. So kailangan discuss mo yung meaning ng table reading, ng number 1. Okay, so if this is a table reading, the second sentence will be the interpretation or interpreting of the result. It is a brief generalization of the results. So in this example, the meaning of this table reading is, this means that organic fertilizers gave a good effects to the height of corn plant. Okay, so yan ang interpretation or interpreting. The third step is cross-referencing. So in cross-referencing, it is citation from other sources, from studies and literature. So magagawa mo lang ang cross-referencing if you have read or if you have research on the different studies and literature. Okay, you have to base on the review of related literature and studies that are related to your present project. So, dun sa project mo, magsa-cite ka or magbigay ka ng mga references na pwedeng mag-support or contradict the result of your study. So, ito yung mga resulta ng researches na pwedeng makatulong or maka-contradict or kokontrahin niya yung result ng iyong study. It is therefore advised to go back and read Review of Related Literature and Studies, Chapter 2, to check the similarities and differences of these sources from your present study. So, kailangan nakapagbasa ka or nakapag-search ka ng mga review of related literature, yung mga experiment or researches ng ibang scientists na pwede mong siyang i-compare doon sa resulta ng iyong experiment. Okay, so these references or citations will strengthen the results of your study. So itong yung mga references na ito ay pwede niyang suportahan or pwede niyang palakasin yung resulta ng iyong experiment. So in this example, the first one is this one is the table reading for step 1, and the second one is the interpreting. That is step 2. Then itong number 3, itong kulay blue is the cross-referencing. So in this example, these findings is supported by Young and others 2018 that organic fertilizer like manure are good alternative for commercial ones. So yan yung tinatawag na cross-referencing. Kasi nagbibigay siya ng citation ng ibang scientists na pwede niyang kontrahin or suportahan ang result ng iyong experiment. So dito sa example na ito, okay, this finding is supported. So sinusuportahan niya yung resulta ng iyong experiment based sa study ni Young and others. So yan ang cross-referencing na tinatawag. The next step is step 4, establish practical application of the results. This will add value to research findings. Using words as encouragement, advices, recommendations, and suggestions are commonly used. So dito sa number 4 step, nagbibigay ito ng practical implication or application of the results. Okay? Kung ano yung resulta ng experiment, nagsasuggest siya, nagre-recommend, or nagbibigay siya ng encouragement and advices na gawin ang isang experiment. Okay? So, in this example, yung number 4 is, moreover, farmers are advised to use organic one due to its good effects in plants and good environmental contributions. So yan ngayon yung kanyang step 4. Nagre-recommend siya or nagsasuggest siya na sa magiging resulta ng experiment, kung ito ba ay pwede ba bang ituloy or pwede siyang tanggalin na lang or wag na lang gawin. So in step 4, you have to use words as encouragement, advices. So nagbibigay ka ng words of encouragement, advices, or recommendations and suggestions. Because this will add value to your research project. So kapag meron kang step number 4, mas nagiging malakas or mas nagiging importante, nagbibigay ng kahalagahan yung iyong research project. Okay, so yan yung 4 na steps ng interpretation of data. Okay, so we have here example number 2. Okay, this one is the first step. Okay, it is gleaned from table 2 the mortality rate of mosquito larvae 5 minutes after application. The result reveals that 95% of larvae died after 5 minutes while 0% for pure water. So based on the result of the data, Okay, in number 1 step number 1, it only discuss the highest and the lowest. Okay, so ganun lang sa step number 1. You will discuss the first and the last, or the highest and the lowest, or pwede rin the first and the second. For step number 2, okay, this high mortality rate implies that oregano extract is good alternative as larvicide for mosquitoes. So ito yung meaning or interpretation ng step number 1. Then number 3, this result is supported by Aggabaw and Uminga 2021 that certain plants like oregano and cassava can exterminate mosquito due to chemical compositions. So ito naman yung step number 3, or cross-referencing. So this one supports the result of the study. Then number 4, giving of positive applications. Hence, natural larvicides are encouraged to use because it is environment friendly and it is positive effectivity. So this one shows the words of encouragement, advices, recommendations, and suggestions. Okay, the next example is, okay, we have here the table. The title is Effect of Hours of Sun Exposure to the Color of Leaves of Palmeira Plant. So these are the results. We have here treatment and the color of leaves. Now, the interpretation is, looking at the table below, table 3 below is the effect of hours of sun exposure to the color of leaves of Palmeira plant. Results show that treatment 2 to 3 hours of exposure to sunlight makes the color of leaves dark green, while an exposed plant gave a yellow to light green color. So that is table reading. Okay, so diniscuss niya yung highest at saka lowest na resulta ng experiment. Then yung number 2 na tinatawag na interpreting, this means that longer exposure to sunlight affects the color of leaves of plants. So ito naman ay binibigyan niya ng meaning yung table reading number 1. Then for the third step, however, a study conducted by Rodrigo 2019 suggests that certain varieties of Palmeira plants turned more yellowish as more time of sun exposure took place. So ito namang number 3 ay cross-referencing, no? Ang nangyari ay kinokontra niya yung resulta ng experiment. In cross-referencing kasi class, pwede niyang suportahan or pwede niyang kontrahin or contradict the results of your present study. Then number 4, hence effect of sun exposure to control the color of leaves differ from one variety of plant to the other. So ito namang number 4, this one is the implication, no? Positive implication of the study. Okay, so these are examples of how you are going to interpret your data. Now for your performance number 4, we have here letter A, classify what step of interpretations are the following. So you will just give kung anong step. Step 1 ba siya? 2, 3, 4 ang mga sumusunod. Okay? So there are how many? Okay, there are 10. Okay? And for performance B, choose 2 tables from your study and make an interpretation of it using the 4 steps. So dun sa inyong mga present na study, you choose 2 tables from your study. O pipili kayo ng 2 table doon, then make an interpretation of it using the 4 steps. Okay? So kailangan i-apply nyo yung 4 steps ng pag-interpret ng data. Okay, so that's it for today.